So I just finished mounting up this this board here. I got some wax on it. Sorry, not mounting it, but waxing it and getting it all tuned up, at least good enough for the first couple days. Just a pretty quick and dirty wax job. And I'm just gonna put some bindings on. And so I often get asked what kind of stance angle, stance width, what sort of general sort of board setup do I try to run? And so I can kind of pass on some of my my thinking, and for general purposes, my kind of guiding focus when I set up my stance is that I'm trying to create a setup that allows me to ride the majority of the mountain in all the different environments that I like to ride in: groomers, park, bumps, trees, deep snow if there's some new snow. And so I try to find the stance combination or the binding angle combination that allows me to perform the way I like in all of those different environments. And I totally get that certain stances have certain benefits. So it's all the trade-off really. And so there's stances that are more applicable to someone who prefers to ride park all the time. There's definitely a stance and angle setup that will allow you to carve better. For me, it's about versatility because I rarely do the same thing from run to run. And that's pretty general, I would say, generally applicable for most snowboard instructors. You may be one run, you may be working on carving. Next run, you might be in the park with a student or just working on your own skills. So it's important to have something that kind of works across all of those environments. So my preferred stance is generally, when it comes to width, is I generally refer to the reference stance on the board. So this board has a reference stance of 21 inches. It's important to refer to the reference stance on a board because the board designers have designed the weight of the rider to stand in a certain place on the side cut on the board. And so for this particular board, this is the Nitro Banker 159. The reference stance is 21 inches. I generally go a little bit outside of that. I'm about 22 inches is kind of my standard. I'm 5'9". I'm not sure what that translates to in centimeters, but I'm about 5'9". And so I find that gives me a good combination of stability and mobility. So stances that are too wide, you get lots of stability, but you lose your ability to move. And stances that are too narrow, obviously the opposite. When it comes to my angles, for many years, I ran angles of 21 on the front foot and -9 on the back foot. And in the last couple of years, I've actually changed that a little bit, and I've gone to more angle on the front foot, 24 degrees on the front foot, and -6 on the back foot. And I would say in general, I would say that most riders that I encounter if I'm training or teaching don't run enough angle on the front foot. Obviously, you need to consider the spread between front foot and back foot if you're running a duck stance, so negative angles on the back foot, which I am. Not getting more than about 30 degrees of spread, so 24, -6, that gives me about 30 degrees. But having a sufficient angle on the front foot allows you to really get your hips to move into the heel side turn in a more effective way. And often what I see with riders who stand in a very symmetrical stance, 15 -15 or 18 -12, is it holds your hips in a very locked and sideways position, and you lose that rotational ability to move the hips into the heel side turn. There's lots of really good info out there as well on stance setups. The Tribute Lounge, Mark Fawcett and the Tribute Lounge did a really good video on different pros and cons, actually a video series of different binding setups. Lars at the Just a Ride YouTube channel as well has some pretty in-depth stuff there, and I generally agree with what all those guys have been saying. So yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at right now, 24, -6. And I've found that gives me the most sort of versatility. You lose a little bit, obviously, riding switch with only -6. It's a fairly positive stance. It keeps me sort of directed towards the front of the board. But this board that I'm snowboarding on is very directional anyway. Shorter tail, longer nose, deeper side cut at the tail of the board. So